You are now listening to Testimonies with Terry.
Hey, I'm about to answer some questions that Terry sent me from the interview, but first, oh, I got those both. Cheese ball. That was a bad idea because now I have to answer questions. Okay, wait for it. So the first question, one of you said, have your cheese balls gotten you any celebrity interactions or news interviews? The answer is yes. I was on Twin Cities Live several years ago on National Cheese Ball Day. Mark your calendar. It's April 17th, I believe. National Cheese Ball Day. Look it up. Celebrate. And they followed me around the mall. They put a camera on my cheese ball backpack, and so it was really fun. You saw the cheese balls come out, and I had a lot of fun interactions. Celebrities, because my husband and I speak, we've been at different festivals and conferences, so most of our celebrity interactions because of cheese balls have happened among the Christian musician circles. I gave a cheese ball to Stephen Curtis Chapman. I gave cheese balls to the Newsboys. Sanctus Real stole my cheese balls and took it on their tour bus, and then they brought them back. And that's just who comes to my mind immediately. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Next question. What was being on Wipeout like? How did you get selected to be on the show? Okay, first, to answer the first part, it was very painful to be on Wipeout. I had to sign 45 pages of paperwork, initialing multiple places on every page. That should have been my first clue to realize, I think this is gonna hurt and I might die. In fact, I signed something that said, if you were to die, your family will not sue us. Okay, well, I didn't die, but I got really hurt, bruises all over my body. One guy on my episode dislocated his shoulder and didn't tell them that it was out of socket, and we're walking to the next obstacle because I had moved on from stage 1 to stage 2, and as we're going to the next stage, he's holding his shoulder, and I said, what is going on? He's like, I think I dislocated it, but don't tell them. So one woman messed up her knee so bad, she never got TV time at all, and she was taken away in an ambulance. So that's a little behind the scenes for Wipeout. How did I get on the show? I was going to fly to California to audition, stand in line with hundreds and thousands of other people and get maybe 10 seconds in front of the producers, but none of the casting calls could work with my availability. So I somehow, it's a God thing, found the company that does the casting for Wipeout, or did the casting at that time, and I called the number, and I could not believe a real person answered. And they said, hello, this is, I think, Mystic Art Picture Casting or something. And how can I help you? I was like, hello, hi. I'm from Minnesota, and I sent in an application. My name's Molly. I'm the cheese ball chick. I'd love to be on the show. Is there any way that I could come and have a private screening, or that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, audition? And I was sure they were going to say no. And I heard typing, and then oh, I see your application there. Oh, okay, interesting. Can you be here Wednesday? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll find a flight from Minnesota to California in 2 days. And I did. And my brother Andy came with me, and we had a blast. And I went into this audition room where all these people who had previously tried out. So I got to skip the first stage of standing in line with all these people. So the people I was in the room with had already made it to this point. I just got to skip it. Thank you, Lord. And while we were in this room, people would be called down the hallway one by one, and you'd go into this room with all these cameras and 3 or 4 people behind computers and cameras, and they would ask you questions, and it'd take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And if they thought you were good enough to pass on to the producers, they would send you down one hallway, and you'd sign all the paperwork, and they say the producers might get back to you in 2 weeks, and they might not, and you may be waiting forever and never hear from them, because they're not going to call you and say you're not on the show. They'll only call you and say, we want you on the show. Otherwise, if they don't think you're very good or engaging, they'll send you down the other hallway and say goodbye. So I had these little pins that said, I met the cheese ball chick, and with my little cartoon like that right there. And I just had them in my pocket, and my brother was wearing one. They let my brother come in the room, and all these people were asking about the cheese balls. And so I'd give them a cheese ball. Then they saw my brother's pin, and they say, "Oh, can I have a pin?" So everybody in the room who was auditioning was wearing my cheese ball chick pin. And so they would go down the hallway one by one. By the time I got down the hallway into the room, they already knew who I was because all these people were wearing my pin. And so they're like, "Oh, you're the cheese ball chick." And so that left a good impression. I guess I must have done a good job answering the questions because they sent me down the room to fill out all the paperwork. 2 weeks later, I got a call that they wanted me on the show. I had to fly back to California to get a physical to make sure I was in good enough shape to be on Wipeout. Then I had to fly back again to do the filming. And I made it from stage 1 to stage 2, almost from stage 2 to stage 3, and didn't move on. But made some good friendships with other people on the show. In fact, one of the girls and I went on to be friends, and she designed an earlier version of our website. So that was super fun. Okay, number 3, when your husband talks about meeting you for the first time with cheese balls on your back, yes, I did have them on my back, what does he say? What were his initial thoughts? Okay, so that's a whole separate, funny, hilarious story. We're actually sharing at a marriage conference this coming weekend in Sioux Falls for Family Life Weekend to remember. It's part of our talk because part of the material that we're sharing is, what was your first impression of your spouse? And so we're going to talk about our first impressions. Before he even got to knowing about the cheese balls, he met me through going to my website. And he learned that I was a speaker and I opened a coffee shop. And then he clicked on this tab called Fun Stuff. Oh, he should not have clicked on that tab because I had over 20 videos of me doing obnoxious things because, in my defense, my primary target audience at that time in my life was teenagers. And I want to prove to anyone and everyone, especially teenagers, that you can have so much fun in life following Jesus, all natural. And so I had all these crazy videos of me doing dumb stuff. The most crazy video is a video of me in footy pajamas wearing a red wig with a stuffed monkey in my footy pajamas to look like I was pregnant. And then I'm lip syncing to a Disney song. Oh my goodness. And I'm like, I switched to different characters. You could still probably. Video got cut off for some reason. That was weird. Okay, so what he saw online was me being super obnoxious, dancing around, lip singing to a Disney song. And he was a little weirded out, but God kept bringing my name up in all these circles he traveled with, and it was undeniable that he was supposed to meet me. And I'm sharing a lot of details that are in this book. Actually, there's a whole chapter called Nicknames and Domains, and it's all about how we met. And it's such a super sweet, fun story. And it's undeniable that God wanted me and my husband together. And so Craig had to look past the craziness of the videos and the cheese balls and super fun way that we actually ended up getting connected. But his first impression of me was through the website. It was on the website that he learned that I carried cheese balls around. And so so the question being, what did he think of the cheese balls? He actually knew that I had cheese balls. So when I wore them on the first date, I think he was like, yeah, this is what she does. So the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, I have heard. So I fed him and he loved me. Okay, question number 4. Do you ever get nervous when you're public speaking? If so, do you have any strategies that help to calm you down? So I've been speaking for almost 19 years, public speaking. And I would say now, after doing it so many times, I don't get too nervous, but there are times where maybe circumstances or even just some spiritual warfare going on, I'm feeling like a little rattled. And this is what I try to do every time before I get up on stage. And this was a recommendation from a mentor of mine when I first started speaking. I get down on the ground somewhere privately in a room, and I put my face on the ground and I say to the Lord, this is all about you. It's not about me. Do your thing. Something like that. Basically, I get in a posture of humility and remembering that there's nothing good that I have that isn't already from Jesus. And he knows what these people need to hear. And so doing that reminds me he's in charge. And so it takes away the nerves and the pressure off of me. Because if I think I have to woo the crowd or engage them so much that I get this awesome, amazing message out and it's all on me, then I would be nervous. But if God is using me and flowing through me and it's his thing, then he can be nervous and I don't need to be. No, he's not nervous. So but one little funny story about that. Oh, my battery is about to die. Okay, you know what? We're not going to tell the funny story. As you read through your old diaries, what advice would you want to give your childhood self? I'm actually planning to write a devotional for teen girls with my little journal excerpts and then my adult self answering, but ultimately God's word answering. And I would just say, Molly, I'm so glad that you're journaling to Jesus. Keep talking to him. He wants to hear from you. And as so much of my journals were about how I looked and what boys thought of me as a young teen, I would say the person that matters the most to impress is God. And you can't do anything to impress him more than he already is impressed with you, because he loves you no matter what. And he will never love you more or less than he does in this moment, regardless of what you look like, what you've done, where you've been. And so I would just cheer myself on. I feel like God got me on the right track at a young age of talking to him. And I would tell myself that my value comes from whose I am, and that is God's, not what I look like or what I do. All right, thanks for the questions, and let's do one last cheese ball before we run. Okay, or not. Oh, there it is.